This week, who's tracking your team's computers? How Taiwan's tackling COVID with tech? And finding cuddly koalas with drones. Hello you, hope you're doing okay. The weather's getting warmer here, which means only one thing. Any minute now you'll hear my next door neighbour's lawnmower whiz past and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. Sorry about that, Laura.
There is an app for that, you know. Don't you watch a programme called Click?
Oh yes, I remember. Good point.
We were actually all meant to be outside this week at the Hay Festival, but alas, it's not happening this year.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to miss the Hay Festival this year. Hay is still online though, and they've got loads of speakers who are giving talks from their homes, rather like the rest of us these days.
Yes. How are you finding working from home, Spencer?
Well, I'm really lucky to be able to work from home, but the weird thing is, whenever I have worked at home in the past, I've worked harder and longer than I have in the office, basically because I'm paranoid people think I'm skiving off.
Yeah, I can understand that, although of course not everybody's that conscientious. And speaking to a lot of friends, I think the idea that moving forward, many of us could be working from home more even after the pandemic. Well, whilst our bosses can't watch us in the way they would in the office, there is some technology that might.
With millions of us now working from home, managers are facing new challenges. Home workers are harder to monitor, and so trust is vital. However, in recent weeks, demand for software to monitor employees has surged in the US, so it seems not everyone is quite so trusting. Whilst companies may argue that it's simply about maintaining productivity, others may feel that we're slipping into a time of creepy surveillance. So, based on these concerns, New York Times journalist Adam Satariano decided to conduct an unusual experiment.
I wanted to see how this employee monitoring software worked, and so I thought the best way to do that would just be to turn it on myself. So I downloaded the software on my computer, on my phone, and then I turned it around and gave my manager, my editor in San Francisco, access as well. Just knowing that your supervisor was looking over my shoulder and could see screenshots of what was on my computer screen or a log of what websites I was visiting, that sort of changes how you behave and how you perform your job.
Adam used monitoring software Hubstaff. The software is now installed on over 100,000 company machines. It can snap screenshots of your computer every few minutes. Other software on the market can even record your screen and monitor every keystroke.
I really did begin to feel that it was intrusive and over the top. It spits out this percentage, which becomes kind of your productivity score that can be used to measure you. And so mine were always stubbornly low, which was surprising. I consider myself to be a fairly productive person.
I am embarrassed to say I looked at that number and I was like, what's going on here? It kind of raises immediate questions like, what is this guy doing? So I should have known better, because when he explained that this really only measures the amount of time you're, typing on your device and using your device and your laptop, that explained a lot. But knowing what else he was doing felt really weird and intrusive. And it was kind of gross, It's like you're not only violating Adam's privacy, you're sort of violating other people's privacy that he was communicating with by extension.
Adam's experiment was one manager monitoring one employee, and the companies providing the software argue that this isn't a true reflection of how their customers use it.
But that's not the reality of what really happens. What really happens is I have 100 employees, and there's nobody who's going around looking at the detail of 100 employees. So really what they're looking for is just those basic insights that we talked about. And the detail is just there if it's needed, if something looks off, looks awry.
However, in the United States, the sudden surge in demand has started to draw attention to the lack of legal protection for workers' privacy and has also highlighted a power imbalance between employers and employees.
Governmental action is necessary to protect workers from being forced to trade their dignity in the employment bargain. In February, I did testify in Congress in the Subcommittee on Labor and Education, and this was an issue that was raised. This productivity tracking of employees, and also the fate of the data that is collected.
With millions more of us now working from home, Dr. Arjanwar's concerns have become even more pressing. She told us that currently employers are allowed to secretly monitor employees, as no federal law exists that requires them to inform their workers about surveillance.
It's now a free-for-all. It's a wild, wild west. Everybody is now subject to the same kind of minute monitoring as we previously thought was, the plight of those poor factory or warehouse workers.
And there's also the issue of employment discrimination that can arise from all this data collection.
If you're taking screenshots, you might discover information about the employee that you perhaps would not have discovered in a traditional workplace. You might discover the employee is of a different sexual orientation, so that could also give rise to discrimination on those grounds, or a different religion.
But in Europe, where productivity monitoring of employees is still legal, there is much tighter oversight, and there are regulations around its use.
In Europe, we have to tell people what we're doing and why, and ensure that we have lawful grounds for doing that. If an organisation has a legitimate interest in collecting the data for workforce productivity in certain areas, then it will be able to do so without consent, but it will still need to be transparent with its employees, telling them what it's doing, and of course put in safeguards to protect the data.
Maybe we will see this sort of employee surveillance become the norm, but clearly it will stir quite some debate. After all, how would you feel if your boss was monitoring you?
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week that for the first time, Twitter restricted access to one of President Trump's tweets, saying it glorifies violence. It's the latest move in an escalating row between the president and the social media company over censorship and freedom of speech. A Canadian court ruled that the case of senior Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou, who is fighting extradition to the United States, can go ahead. And if 10,000 songs was not enough for your lockdown listening libraries, music streaming service Spotify has now removed that limit. You can now save an unlimited number of tracks and dance like nobody's watching. If you're getting square eyes in lockdown, how about upgrading to a holographic 8K display? The display, developed by Looking Glass, has a massive 33.2 million pixels and is designed to give the appearance of 3D without needing glasses. Although a little less likely to happen to you at the moment, when you next find yourself out at sea, would you trust an algorithm to help you if you went overboard? Researchers at ETH Zurich and MIT developed the algorithm to help speed up search and rescue operations by more accurately predicting where a floating person would drift. And finally, while some of us have been struggling to fill the free time we have inside, one developer built a robot companion to keep him company. Engineer Sharath Naik created E1 using a Raspberry Pi powered by Google Assistant. E1 can detect and show emotions, but can't currently follow you around the house.
Now, as lockdowns are starting to ease, we're also beginning to see the economic consequences, and questions are being asked as to whether COVID-19 could have been handled differently.
Well, one part of the world that managed to keep things business as usual, more or less, is Taiwan. With direct flights to Wuhan and densely packed cities, the strategy promised to be a disaster. But no. By the 20th of May, Taiwan had had just 7 COVID-19 deaths. So where did it all go so right? Back in 2003, Taiwan faced another epidemic which also originated on the Chinese mainland: SARS. This time around, the government immediately began testing and tracing specific parts of the population, using, for example, travel data to see who'd just returned from Wuhan, together with health data pointing to those with recent health problems. Those who were quarantined were monitored using location data from their mobile phones. The virus was stopped in its tracks before it had a chance to take hold in the community. But how did this democratic island persuade the people to allow such use of their data? Well, last year we met Taiwan's digital minister Audrey Tang, who was part of the 2014 Sunflower Revolution, in which citizens stormed the parliament buildings demanding to be listened to. Among the protesters, civic hackers like these, who worked together using open data to solve issues in the public interest. They've since come up with transparent ways of giving ordinary people a bigger say in making decisions.
After that Occupy at the end of 2014, the entire cabinet started to learn the art of listening at scale.
And today, the listening continues. So when a citizen reposted a warning from whistleblower Dr. Li Wenliang of a SARS-like disease at the end of December, people took note.
And so because of this, we were able to gain precious time to set up the Central Epidemic Command Center even before that we had the first confirmed local case.
Along with strong messaging about hand washing and social distancing, Taiwan was keen to emphasize the benefits of wearing masks.
In Taiwan, people care about each other, and we build masks as something that A, reminds you to wash your hands properly, and B, protects you from touching your mouth. And that is the main benefit of mask to the person who wear it. Of course, we know once a majority of people in the same place start wearing medical masks, they start protecting each other. The peer pressure only takes effect if a majority of people in the room wear a mask.
Mask production was ramped up from 2 million to 20 million a day, and to combat panic buying, they were rationed. Then the hacking community stepped in with a series of real-time mask maps to show the nearest points to you where they were still available. As the maps became more popular, more volunteers came on board, and features like voice activation for the visually impaired were added.
We trust the people a lot. Sometimes the people trust back, and the people who trust back first gets their applications, their innovations amplified by the government into essentially civil engineering infrastructure, so that more than 10 million people use it in a participatory way to keep each other accountable.
And here's another product of this higher level of trust between people and government. When rumours started to circulate online that toilet rolls were made of the same kind of paper as masks, toilet rolls started to run out. In response, Taiwan's premier was enlisted to quash this misinformation with a meme.
He shows his bottom wiggling a little bit and says that we only have one pair of buttocks each. And then a table that says the masks are produced using domestic material and tissue paper are produced using South American material, and these two do not overlap. And this went absolutely viral. We make sure that these ideas travel faster than conspiracy theories, than rumors, by using cute dog memes, so that all the press conferences get translated by the spokesdog that explains hand sanitation rules, social distancing, mask use, and things like that, and in many languages. And so this is literally our spokesdog, and all of them go very viral.
Can you understand why not all governments think like you, and therefore why populations don't trust their governments?
Back when we encountered SARS, we had to barricade an entire hospital unannounced and with no fixed time limit. And that was barely constitutional. There was severe trust crisis. And so we know how it was like because it was very chaotic. It's just that the entire society gets inoculated by that experience. The important thing is that as a society, one needs to start deliberating about, for example, data use. The robust civil society take control of most of the data applications. Or do you want a surveillance state? Or do you want the multinational companies play that role? And that decision must be made by the entire society. By the time that the next wave comes or the next mutation comes, that will determine how your society responds to it.
That was Audrey Tang talking to me earlier from Taiwan.
And now we go even further across the world.
Yeah, see, a little while ago, our very own Nick Queck decided he'd had enough of the UK and he moved to Australia to explore the country. 3 weeks after he arrived, he went into lockdown and hasn't left his apartment since.
Hi, Nick. Oh, no. How's it going?
Hello, great to see you guys. Yeah, it's been amazing. I feel like I really have managed to grasp what Australia is all about from the inside of these four white walls. I'm so glad that I moved from the other side of the world to now remain inside this cell.
Oh, no. Lockdown is easing there now, isn't it? I mean, are you hoping to start your touring soon?
That's right. On Monday, the pubs are going to be open. So I'll be queuing immediately after this.
Oh, I bet you will be. Now, before going into lockdown, you did actually go to film some pieces for us, didn't you?
That's right. Well, I looked across the Australian technological landscape and I thought, what better way to start than go and cuddle some koalas or kangaroos?
Oh.
And I was jet lagged anyway, so I thought I'd pop out during the night.
In the dead of the night, something is afoot. 2 feet in fact, and a jump. Westpac Little Ripper Group and myself are sacrificing sleep to track down some roving roos, or the occasional wandering wallaby. We're not fussy. Table? Check. Carpet? Check. 2 unmanned aerial vehicles? Check, check. I'm out with the same team behind the slick shark spotter drones I've covered before.
With the bushfires and the animals that have been affected, we've now taken the amazing technology that we've had on the beaches for the last 3 years and we've put it over the bushland.
Now they've turned nocturnal, and their new targets are considerably cuddlier creatures.
We can see kangaroo, kangaroo, kangaroo. You can see that they really stand out against the background.
We're filming before sunrise during the coldest part of the day, so the new thermal cameras fixed to the drones can work properly. As well as being able to survey huge swathes of land in the blink of an airborne eye, the drone's thermal capabilities can help in other ways.
A thermal signature makes animals much easier to see at night, their natural internal temperatures making them visible even in the most dense of treetop canopies. And the different individual temperatures of the animals can be recorded, therefore making them more distinct between species.
Different animals show up at different temperatures, they have different fur that insulates them, so it's just a matter of picking them out, but you can see quite easily there's a whole lot of kangaroos in this field.
We fly over an area and there's a kangaroo that seems to be moving a little bit differently, not as efficient as it usually would, or not normal movement patterns, then we'll focus on that. And if we bring the drone a little bit closer and they don't move or they don't scare, or a human gets closer to them and they don't move or don't scare, then we know that something is probably wrong with its health, and we'll focus on identifying that and passing that on to rescuers.
Dr. Grant Hamilton from Queensland University of Technology is also using drones to monitor koalas. He's devised an algorithm to automatically detect animals in the outback using computer vision.
On the right-hand side, we have the artificial intelligence algorithm working, and on the left-hand side we have the thermal imagery. It's a koala. Initially it was falsely detecting kangaroos, for example, as koalas. We were even detecting humans and even hot car bonnets. But that's the whole point, that you go back and you retrain the algorithm. So the algorithm gets better and better and better, to the point now where we're better than humans are at detecting koalas.
All of the algorithms that have been developed to date is processing back at a university. So there's no in-field processing. So we're now going to work with the universities and the institutions, take the data sets and the algorithms that they've started to develop, layer it over our technology, which enables us to do these surveys at night in the field and get real-time data back. And that's the key.
Someone who knows a thing or two about the state of Australian animals is Dr. Michael Pine.
When I first started here 20 years ago, we admitted just 3 koalas in the whole year, and last year we admitted almost 600 koalas.
He sees real value in an up-to-date digital census.
These surveys are done intermittently, maybe every 10 years, and in many areas they're not done at all. It's just estimates. Technology such as drones, using those thermal cameras can mean large areas can be covered in short periods of time, relatively cheaply, to get those numbers, so we know how many koalas are there, and that makes all the difference. Only if we know what's there can we manage what's there and be able to make decisions about the future.
As well as the fires and the underlying issue of drought, chlamydia is a huge problem, putting koalas under threat. So, staff at Currumbin have been using tech of their own to help diagnose the disease.
We can take a swab, we can use this little unit here called the Genie 3, and it will detect whether there's chlamydia or not from that swab within 25 minutes. So it's amazing technology that we can actually take out into the field, which makes all the difference to us being able to start treatment appropriately, and at the end of the treatment, decide whether we've been successful with the treatment or not.
A lot of work remains to be done, and in fact it's the very beginning of the important work to find out what's left. The other thing to consider though is that this is just one bushfire season, and Australia has bushfires regularly. So unless we get a good count now, we're not going to be able to get any idea of what happens next time.
That was Nick, who, as we speak, is setting up a tent on the pavement outside his local pub, ready for the grand opening. And that's it from us for this week.
You can keep up with the team throughout the week on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter at BBC Click.
Thanks for watching, and we will see you soon.
Bye-bye.